And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody. Man, great beer, great artists. We have some of those things here. We're actually standing right in front of a fantastic piece by Sophia Wheelwright, and we're about to jump in the studio and see what else she's up to. Let's go.
Oh, I had to drop the mic.
Mic drop. Knock, knock.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hi, welcome.
So, for the new viewers out there,
Okay.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Let me grab the mic first. Is this on? It is. Don't worry, that always does that. You know what? Let's come in the light.
Let's do it.
And
Light seems to be a very central theme here.
so, welcome. My name is Sophia Wheelwright, and normally I have this studio set up for an immersive sculpture that people would be lying under. And I thought, since there isn't a crowd, what I would actually do is put some of the lights on. You'd still see the pieces it's this incarnation, but I would actually describe sort of how I came to doing this kind of work.
Please.
8.5 years ago, I moved to Equinox,
Mm-hmm.
and with no training in art, except a lot of photography. And so I would go into people's studios in their garbage bins and downstairs to the free piles, and I would make stuff out of what I found. And that lasted about 2.5 years. And I made objects from found stuff, small objects, rubber tires, the inserts in your vitamin bottles, those things you pull out and throw out.
Uh-huh.
So that was basically my focus for those first couple of years while I got used to the studio and had a small little studio. And then at some point I found, and I'm going to take you over here, I found some window screening. It was pretty boring. It was pretty small, but I worked it by hand, and I created these 3 pieces, which...
These are the original 3.
Uh-huh.
Very nice.
And finished with that material, had no more, figured, okay, and I moved on to other things. But at some point, I found myself wondering what to do next. And I thought, most artists actually buy material. And so I thought, what if I pick a material that interested me, like this, and I went and bought the largest amount that I could find, which was a 100-foot roll of it.
Oh, wow.
Not having any idea where this was going to lead, I thought the only rule I'm going to give myself is I can't cut this 100 feet because I don't want to limit my ideas or possibilities. And so I started working the 100 feet by hand, and I can show you some of that material over here. We'll go back in the light. Thanks, work. I realize I'm making you work.
That's what I'm here for.
And so this is not 100 feet. This is just a section of it. But basically on a table, I would work it by hand. Very, very impressionable. And I'm just doing it quickly at this point. But I did it quite slowly, listened to NPR, listened to radio, listened to books. And for months, it took me for that first 100 feet.
Wow.
And as it spilled off the table, it was so beautiful. And I kept thinking, God, it's like a river, and it's like clouds, and it's smoke. And I would take naps on it because it was incredibly buoyant, 100 feet of it.
Totally.
And but then when I was finished with 100 feet, I thought, I don't have a sculpture. How does that make sculpture?
Yeah.
And so down the hall, John Kirschenbaum came in and listened to me and came up with this very brilliant system of just putting a screw with some wire down. So I have tons and tons of wires, and I whoop, 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 tons of wires through the whole studio. And I basically started just trying to get that 100 feet off the ground.
Nice.
No idea where it was going to go. And as I did it and worked my way through, it was not unlike making a fort when you're a kid. As you're inside, you realize, no, that doesn't work. Oh, that's cool. And you just follow it, and eventually you have created this whole thing around you. So that first piece is actually this half. It's still up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's probably been, I hate to say, like 5 years. And actually, here is a picture of just when that piece was up.
Expensive.
And I had discovered a different way of working.
Amazing.
So since that time, I've always been drawn to light. As a kid, I spent a lot of my time in old barns and in woods. And I just felt when the light would shift and it would change. And so I think that still informs me today. I basically am interested in how space affects us and how light affects us. So I have worked with different kinds of lighting, natural lighting with the shadows, with what I call studio lighting, which are these just warm lights.
Sure.
And then I've worked with LED lights, which you can see a few examples of. And then I've also projected video into it. And video is definitely one of the crowd pleasers, and also pleases me in that when it's shot through lots of different layers, of course, you can't control how it's going to hit different layers. And depending on where you are, you see different parts of it. So I actually created this piece in the studio because it was my studio. I thought the limit of the size, too bad I don't have high ceilings. But it's interesting because people have come in, experienced the piece, and had me do commissions.
Excellent.
Way up high in the sky, sounds great, but what I found is that when pieces are super, super high, they don't affect you the same way. And so, to be honest, probably my ideal would be to have pieces that go up so the food trucks can come down, and that you can lower so that people can be surrounded by them. So, but I have had lots of different opportunities since then to do pieces that are outdoors.
Oh, nice.
And what's neat about when you do an outdoor piece is that in the daytime, it looks like one thing. And then in the nighttime, the same piece gets to have a totally different identity.
Super different.
Grab those too.
Yep. So this is something I really like. I'm really interested in having work that stays and that people get to experience. Well, first of all, when somebody walks into a piece, you have no idea what they're going to notice, and what they're going to experience. But I'm really interested that the same piece will feel so totally different depending on the way you light it or the way the day is lighting it. Outdoor pieces move, they undulate. Here's a piece. My latest piece is actually, sorry for the crinkly picture, but this is actually at Pioneer Square right now at the old Elliott Bay bookstore.
Nice.
Place called Access. So in here, I'm working with different, collaborating with different video mapping artists. It's really interesting to work with different people because you get to see their aesthetic, how they work, how light works. And again, you have this piece that this is the same piece during the daytime.
Very nice.
And what's funny, I just was printing this picture and I noticed the picture next to it was from when I parked my car on the way to make the piece. I couldn't help be struck by how much it sort of looks like a waterfall. But none of my pieces have a specific, I don't want them to be one thing. I like the fact that it can be a waterfall, it can be clouds, it can be smoke. I've had various different people come in, dragon's breath.
Right. Elements of imagination and metamorphosis depending on where you are and who you are. Absolutely.
It's sort of like looking at the clouds, you know, they shift depending on.
And I think you sort of alluded to this, but I was wondering, with your process, if I came to you with a commission, would you sit in the studio and crinkle everything and think about it, or would you just go to the place that I need it and let the environment decide what it's going to be? Very
good question. I would go into a location and I would spend a lot of time there throughout different parts of the day. And I would sketch. So I come up with an idea how energy might enter into a room and leave a room. But when I actually, so I will do a maquette, I'll make a model, and I'll use just crinkly paper, to sort of show and to come up with different concepts. And then as you can see, I have mesh right behind you. This is mesh I've worked.
Gotcha.
These have been used on other jobs that have come down. There's more mesh.
Just sort of ready material to be put into something.
I've prepped. So I would approximate the amount of material I think I would need for that space.
Gotcha.
But to be honest, you go with a plan and then you adjust. Because you never know exactly how the twists and turns are going to look. But I do start, and I do some research with the person, what they're thinking and what they're responding to, but also to the space and to the history of the space. So
very cool.
And then
very cool. Well, it's just lovely. I've definitely, a couple of years ago when we could do things, I remember coming in as a young Equinox, fan and lying under all the lights and being really impressed by it. So it's good to see more and more coming out of the rest of the world. Well,
it's been so lovely to have the puppy pile energy that comes into Equinox. I do think, so I'm going to show a picture because since for people who don't know my work, this is only a partial picture where you can see it's partially lit, so you can see that the floor gets covered with people.
Totally.
And what I love about it is it's like puzzle pieces. They all figure out, and they're strangers. I mean, some of them know each other, but they're strangers, and they figure out how to find a space so they can lie down. And I think that when you lie down, there's something that relaxes here. You're not holding up your body, and you relax, and all of a sudden, the way your mind thinks is different. And so that's not something I do. That's something the audience does, and I love putting people into that position. I'm trying to figure out how to make pieces in public spaces so that people will feel okay to lie down.
For sure.
And either have, incredibly comfortable sort of lounges. I could see one in a school where a kid can curl up with a book.
Totally.
I could see it in a hospital where people are stressed and they don't have a lot of time, but their whole nervous system could just calm down. So, and the other thing I'm just beginning to develop is wall pieces.
Okay.
Totally separate.
Sure.
Trying to figure out if there's ways I can actually make finished work on, huge substrates and actually have people choose what they want rather than having to have the faith that the artist will be able to come in and make a piece on site. So this is another thing I'm just beginning to develop. And in this kind of piece, I've been working with somebody, there's a video projector up there where you actually can do video projection. So it only animates the piece and not the wall all around it.
Sure.
And you can either have it on or off like this. I love the shadows.
Yeah.
But depending on what you wanted, you could animate it. It'll almost be like a fireplace or something you might spend time with. So that's a new direction too. I keep thinking I'm going to do more of that, and to be honest, I get more work like this, and I keep going back to making it.
Sure.
The other piece I did this summer was a piece at Dottie Harper, which is in Burien.
Okay.
And it was in some trees, a grove of trees. So you can see here I am, if you can see that. Here I am looking up at it.
Wow, yeah.
It's pretty massive.
That's huge. How many, so 100-foot roll is the largest you can get of this material?
Yeah, but I used about 400 feet.
Wow.
And I've done ones where I've used 18 rolls. I've done 80 feet long pieces, 30 feet wide,
Wow.
big pieces. But that piece, one day I would happen to be going to get my flu shot in Burien, right down the street from it. And I found that my piece had become this. So because of one thing that gave, all of a sudden that piece ended up like that. And it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and took pictures, and I thought about leaving it that way. And then I realized that that's probably not what the organizers wanted, was to have a piece up in the air.
Sure.
And so I did put it back up.
Yeah, but it gives, a whole new inspiration to other future projects.
Well, to be honest, it actually is, as a very astute friend said, well, how about if you create pieces and then drop half of them and see, maybe you'll like that better.
Right.
Because, so it has changed different ways that I'm orienting my pieces.
Nice.
Based on an accident.
Very cool. Accidents are some of the best. We've talked to a few artists.
Yes, I've noticed a few artists.
Yeah, that seems to be a theme.
I think one of the most amazing things I've learned is you don't have to know what you're doing before you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you plan as well as you can, and then you adjust and adapt things.
Totally.
And that has been very empowering. And I actually believe everyone has this ability. It's just most of us don't get put in that situation where we get to do that.
Right.
Another really cool thing I would say about having a studio, the luxury of having a studio, is you get to do a lot of different things, and then you look around and you all of a sudden realize, wow, I seem to be interested in X.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a conscious, or at least for me, it's not a planned thing. And so you sort of discover what you can't forget, because it keeps coming back. And so I would say when you look at anybody's work, that is what you're noticing. It's the things that they can't put down or can't give up, and they keep working on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been really neat, because I couldn't tell you exactly all the things that have influenced me, but now I'm beginning to see it as I create more and more.
Totally. Creating a map by walking forwards and looking back, kind of.
Yeah.
Very nice.
There's one other piece around the corner, which is, I decided 2 years ago that I needed to do something that wasn't mesh to remember that I could. And so I took the sheer material that somebody had thrown out or given away, And I also got 14 slide projectors at a theater that was closing. So you can go in. There you go. A theater was closing down. Actually, it was Seattle Rep. They were switching to digital. And so I said yes to the 14 free projectors.
Nice.
And this is what came out of that.
Very cool. Yeah, in case inside, checking it out. Awesome. And I'm a fan of immersive things. I'm a fan of sort of abstract things, you know, so I'm super into it. We've got your information up on the screen.
Okay,
so people
good.
can find you. And are you taking commissions at the moment?
Absolutely. So if people want, they can, I will be on the Equinox website eventually, but at this point, SophiaWheelwright.com will, and any email inquiries will
Answer. Excellent.
the way to go.
Any last words you want to send off to the public?
Well, mostly that if people are stuck at home, I guess I would say some way make things, because we learn, you know, even if it's baking, although that would, I guess, make different things happen.
For sure. I think we've all experienced a little bit of that.
Yeah, a little bit of that. But just, I'm very, very grateful to have this community. But now that we all have to be creative and finding other kinds of community, I think thanks to you guys, we get to do this. But I hope people will come back, and I hope people will make stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure.
I guess that's basically it.
I think they will. Wonderful. Well, that's awesome. Kay, any last words, any last visions from inside your veil of wonders?
It's so cool in here. Look at that. I thought I'd switch my camera around for a second. I don't have a microphone on, but this is inside the suite.
Here, I'll go in with my mic. How about that?
Yeah, there you
That
go.
sounds great. Yeah. So
Action.
we're inside this beautiful fabric piece with all the projections behind us. It's a magical place.
It's quite
So beautiful.
It's quite warm in here, isn't it? I
It
mean,
is warm.
but also warm as in like the warm light.
Yeah, both ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about doing this over a bed. I mean, I don't know what you do with all the projector sound, so I guess that is a limiting factor. Yeah.
Well, next time y'all can come down here, you should definitely come and hang out in Sophia's little house of delight and comfort. It's wonderful.
You're all welcome.
Fantastic.
Cup of tea.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sophia. I think we're going to head to a commercial break.
Okay, sounds good.
And we will be back soon.
Okay, thanks, you guys.
Thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Sophia. We'll take your microphone back.
Oh, yeah,
for you.
that helps.